Welcome back to my YouTube channel, everybody. I have 3 festive DIYs. I am very slowly this year getting into the festive mood, and I thought, you know what, if I do a few Christmas DIYs, it might give me the goo for the elf festivities. Now in this video I'm using power tools and my Cricut machine, but I want you to kind of take the idea, make it your own. So don't worry if you don't have, you know, a power tool or whatever. You can buy craft blanks. I just wanted to use materials that I had, and I didn't want to go and buy supplies kind of from the craft shop. I wanted to kind of use up stuff that I already had. So that's why I kind of made some of the bits in this video with my tools. But you can all like take these ideas and get craft blanks in your local craft shops or online as well. I'm gonna pop timestamps below and we'll have the chats after. For my first project in this week's video, I am going to be making a gingerbread village, but I'm using some cardstock that I already had in my stash, and I'm using my Cricut maker to cut this into cute little shapes that I found in the Cricut design space. Now you can totally draw these out on cardboard and cut them out with a blade or a craft knife if you want to try this and you don't have a Cricut machine. I'm using a Tipp-Ex pen, which is like a correction fluid for mistakes, because I went to 2 stationery stores and I couldn't get a white marker anywhere. So I was like, oh, what will I use? I was going to use like a paintbrush and, you know, a fine tip paintbrush and some paint, and I was like, I'm going to use a Tipp-Ex pen. Took a scrap piece of wood that was actually in the garden, and it was already painted white on one side, and I cut it to size, given it a sand down, and you'll see me giving it a little lick of white paint, but I wanted to keep it like rustic and not too perfect, if that makes sense. I am just gluing my houses to a bottom piece of cardboard, because I was like, oh, how am I actually going to stick my little village onto the piece of wood? So this was my solution. You may have a better one, but that's what I did. So I glued them to the bottom piece using my glue gun, cordless glue gun, game changer, and I then glued them to the wood panel, added some faux candles, and you'll see how I styled it in my living room. For this project, we are going to do a little bit of sewing, and I'm actually recycling the fabric from an old dress because I couldn't get gingham fabric in the shop. They are low on supplies, so I wanted to use what I had and recycle some fabric. So we are going to do some Christmas bunting. You can probably get away without sewing this and use some iron-on like interfacing or a Bondo web, I think it's called. But basically for this project I made 2 flags, a smaller one and a larger one. The smaller one I'm going to cut out the gingham fabric, and then the larger flag I'm going to use felt, and I'm going to stick the gingham fabric to the felt. I was supposed to buy Bondo web in the sewing shop, and I ended up buying fusible interfacing, like fabric stiffener. So I ironed it onto my gingham fabric to keep it like nice and stiff, and then I stitched it onto the felt with my sewing machine. But if you had like a Bondo web, you could totally iron it onto the flag. Blondie was not playing with me either. And as always, she wanted to be in on the action. So that is what I did. I ironed them on, and then later you'll see me use my Cricut machine to add some cute Christmas details to the front of them. Don't worry if you don't have a Cricut machine, because I remember last year I wanted to do a project, a personalized one, and I ordered stencils off Etsy. So there's so many Etsy sellers that will do custom designs for you on Cricut. So if you, or any cutting machine actually, so if you do want to do that instead, that is also an option.
One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yay! Boom! Okay. For this project, we are playing with some wood. Now, you could totally get this wood cut for you. This was in my scraps, and I didn't want to go out and kind of buy any more like woods or pull apart a palette, so I was just using my scraps. We're going to make a sign, and we're going to make some coasters. So I'm just marking them out before I cut the wood to size, and then I give it a light sanding and a staining, and I'm also going to personalize them as well. This stain I use is Antique Pine, which is quite orange tone. now that I'm looking back at this footage, but again, I was using what I had in my stash. I had this from a project in earlier in the year, so I didn't want to buy like, you know, a different stain or whatever, but you could totally like whitewash this wood and make it even more rustic and scuff it up a bit if you want like a rustic effect. And then I'm just using permanent vinyl to stick on to the little coasters, and then I have like an initial for like my niece and nephew and like my brother, and I'm gonna do a few more I think for Christmas. But I was actually thinking as well, whilst these are like cute for coasters, if you're doing like maybe a table display at Christmas, you could maybe like sit it on the plate or have like a napkin or something. Like you could make it as well as a coaster, you could maybe use it as part of like a table setting or something like that, which I thought was cute. And everyone loves something personalized. So I hope you got some inspiration. And I noticed there's a bit of supply chain issues going on for a lot of people, and everything has been affected. I was in the sewing shop and I wanted some gingham fabric, and that's how I ended up reusing an old dress, because I wanted, you know, that kind of fabric. And the girl was saying like they cancelled some of their Christmas fabric orders because the container, it was going to come too late, so they only had the stock that they had. So I was like, use your own. So if you can't find what you want with the supply issues, just chop, cut and use your imagination and use what you already have. But old clothes is a great way to start for fabric, because I mean, lockdown pounds, some clothes ain't be fitting no more. Also, that was the first time in ages I've been able to just sit and play with my Cricut machine. So this video was not sponsored by Cricut, but I do work with Cricut from time to time, and it was nice to sit down and just make with my Cricut machine, because I was still classing myself as like a beginner Cricut user. I see people doing amazing things with their Cricut, and I literally just cut vinyl on mine. So that's why I wanted to cut the wooden houses out. I've seen people making dollhouse furniture with their maker, so you don't need to have a maker either. I'm gonna pop a link to a blog post about both, because I have a blog post on the Joy, which is the entry-level cheap model, which I think is perfect for everyone and beginners. And if you just want to cut vinyl, like the iron-on and the stick-on for the last two projects, you only need the Joy for that. And if you want to do cutting the wood and fabric, you have to use the maker for that. So I have both, but again, that's just because I was working with Cricut, so I was testing out like different machines. But in my opinion, the cheap one in the range is probably suitable for most people if you want to just kind of do vinyl and stuff. Like the cheaper one won't cut wood, but to be fair, I've probably only cut wood and heavier materials about 3 or 4 times on the maker. So I try to think if I had anything else to say. Yes, with the gingerbread house, you can use cardboard as well, so you don't have to cut wood. So again, whatever I have done, just change the material to suit what you've got. Use cardboard, use cereal boxes instead of like the chipboard wood. You could do a garland instead. I've seen loads of like gingerbread projects on Pinterest. Also, I think it was last week, the Sorry Girls had had a mat. So one of the girls had a plain mat that you get in like the pound shop, like a doormat, and they did like an anthropology dupe and they turned it into like a gingerbread house, and I thought, oh my god, amazing. So I wanted to give it a bash. I haven't tried making one of them, but I nod to their gingerbread with my little gingerbread village. So I kind of got the idea from them, had a little look on Pinterest, but I ended up with gingerbread village and not a gingerbread doormat. But I'll link to their video in my description and you can check out the gingerbread mat that I was on about because I think it's class. And that is me for this week. I think next week I'm gonna do the decorations because it's like gonna be towards the end of November. I know in the US, I think you guys hold out for Thanksgiving for your Christmas decorations. But in Ireland, most people hold out until like the first week of December, second week, and then the early birds like me will do kind of like mid to late November. But I think I'm gonna do it because my nephew spotted the box of Christmas decorations from when last week I had a workman in my attic and he left a box of decorations down because they nearly fell on him, and my nephew found them and he was like, is it Christmas? And I was like, yeah-ish, almost. So I think I'm gonna have to give in and do the Christmas tree and just say it's for my niece and nephew, but really it's for me. That's my chats for this week. Cheeky thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. If you're new to my channel, please do hit that subscribe button if you like what you see, and check out my recent videos, and I'll see you all in next week's video.